Tom returns to his country home after a short trip, finding remnants of a disturbing scene. He confronts his wife, Peggy, about her actions, leading to a tense exchange about alleged infidelity and revenge. Peggy reveals she acted on information from a friend, while Tom maintains his innocence and presents evidence of his whereabouts. Their argument escalates, culminating in Tom's decision to leave and file for divorce. The situation intensifies as Peggy retaliates, leading to both of them losing their jobs and reputations. Despite pleas from family and friends, Peggy initially refuses to back down from the legal battle, until public shaming forces her to reconsider. Finally, a defeated Peggy drops her countersuit and meets with Tom one last time. Both express their regret, acknowledging the irreversible damage to their relationship. Tom returned to his rural residence on Wednesday morning. His last visit had been Sunday, and his intention was a quick retrieval of some necessities. He anticipated Peggy, his spouse, would be at her workplace. Entering the kitchen with the intent of brewing coffee, he noticed the handcuffs and duct tape remained on the table precisely where he'd left them. A crumpled kitchen towel rested on the floor, a remnant of wiping his face. The video camera remained perched on its tripod beside the table, and the overturned chair lay undisturbed. Instead of preparing coffee, he retrieved a Diet Coke from the refrigerator. "Where have you been?" Peggy's sharp voice startled him as she entered the kitchen. Tom remained silent, bypassing her towards the bedroom to gather some clothing. She seized his arm. "I asked you a question," she stated, her frustration evident. Tom turned, facing the woman he'd married 7 years prior, the woman he loved, but who now felt like a complete stranger. "Let me go," he said softly. Peggy scrutinized his eyes, noting their dull, vacant appearance. She released his arm, granting him passage. Gathering the handcuffs, duct tape, and kitchen towel, Peggy discarded them in the trash. She detached the camera from the tripod, placing it on the table, and then folded the tripod, setting it aside. She proceeded to the bedroom, where Tom had a large suitcase open on the bed, actively packing. "What are you doing, Tom?" she inquired. "I'm packing," he responded. "Another business trip?" "No." "Then where are you going?" Tom paused, his expression devoid of emotion. "Why does it matter? You're my husband. I have a right to know." "Peg, you relinquished that right last Sunday afternoon." Tom added a few more items to his bag and zipped it closed. He carried it to the living room, placing it by the door before proceeding to the study. Peggy trailed behind him. He retrieved papers from his desk, placing them into his briefcase, followed by his laptop and charger. Tom returned to the kitchen table, retrieving the video camera. Opening it, he discovered the SD card still inside. "Is this what you recorded on Sunday?" he asked. Peggy smiled. "A memory of your payback. That's very nice of you. Thank you." Tom's expression remained serious. "Tom, please talk to me." Peggy's voice rose. He glanced at her, a fleeting expression crossing his face. "What happened between us? Why are you leaving?" she asked, her confusion apparent. "Come sit at the table with me," Tom instructed. He opened his computer bag, positioned his laptop on the table, and sat down. He gestured for Peggy to join him. Once she was seated, he inserted the SD card into the laptop. "Let's watch this," he suggested. "Then we can talk." He initiated the video. The screen displayed a chair pushed away from the kitchen table and an empty space nearby. "Welcome home. Come into the kitchen. I have a surprise for you." Tom's voice echoed from the recording, accompanied by a smile. Peggy, wearing a light robe, her hair and makeup impeccable, approached him. A smile gracing her lips and something clutched in her hands. "Please have a seat," Peggy's recorded voice instructed. Tom sat, returning her smile. She moved behind him, returning moments later to gently cover his mouth. His smile persisted. "Are you ready for your surprise?" she asked playfully. He nodded, confirming his readiness. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Tom turned to see a man, also in a robe, entering the room. Tom's smile transformed into astonishment as Peggy moved towards the newcomer, loosening the belt of his robe, allowing it to fall to the floor. The man was unclothed beneath. Tom paused the video, fixing his gaze on Peggy. Why did you do this? He inquired. You know why, she retorted. Hold on, Peggy. I don't know what you mean, Tom responded. Confusion etched on his face. Before we married, I stated that if you ever betrayed me, I would retaliate in a way that demonstrated how it felt, right in front of you, Peggy explained. Tom remained perplexed. Is this what this is about? You think I betrayed you? I know you did, she stated emphatically. When did I ever betray you? Tom questioned. Don't play games. You know precisely when, she retorted, her frustration escalating. Tom removed the SD card, returning it to his bag. He closed the laptop and slid it into its case. You need to tell me what's going on, or I'm leaving right now, he stated, his voice thick with frustration. Don't act like you don't know. Last week, during your so-called business trip, I received a call from Jerry's wife, Jill. She said you and Jerry spent the week with some women. And what proof did she have? Tom challenged. Stop pretending to be the victim. You know what you did. So you acted based on a phone call, without any real proof? Tom pressed. Yes, I did. I didn't need anything more. Peg, you tied me up and were with another man right in front of me? You humiliated me, all based on hearsay. I decided to retaliate. Tom shook his head in disbelief. You never told me why. You didn't talk to me about it. You assumed I was guilty and needed to be punished, and you proceeded without any evidence. Yes, she affirmed. So now we're even. Even? Yes, even. It may not matter now, but there are a few things I want to say. Go ahead, I'm listening. I was at a conference all last week. Jerry wasn't even there. He was dismissed from the band 2 months ago for inappropriate relations with the receptionist. I haven't seen or spoken to him since. I was a speaker at the conference. I was on stage from 7:00 a.m. until 10:00 p.m. every day. The entire week was recorded. After the sessions, the group met until midnight planning for the next day. I can provide numerous witnesses to corroborate my whereabouts. I never left the hotel until I departed for the airport after the conference concluded. So you deny everything. I don't believe you. I have proof of my activities the entire time. And you think a call from someone who wasn't even there constitutes proof? That seems like a weak foundation to me. But I believed her. What we believe doesn't necessarily make it true. I once believed I was married to the most wonderful woman. What I learned on Sunday is that I'm married to someone who treated me cruelly without any real evidence against me. Peggy remained silent. I'm leaving now. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. I'm filing for divorce. That's what this was all about? Now we're even, Peggy? I didn't betray you. Didn't you hear me? I'm not stupid. Of course I listened. Do you still think what you did was right? I do. Then there's nothing more to say. Just call Jill and find out what she really knows. I want to know too, but it doesn't matter much now. Without another word, Tom departed. He proceeded to his hotel room and copied the video onto 3 DVDs. He had already scheduled a meeting with his lawyer and initiated the divorce proceedings, citing infidelity as the grounds. He provided 1 DVD to his lawyer, confident the prenuptial agreement would be upheld with the evidence presented. Tom personally delivered the filed documents to Peggy. His lawyer advised him on immediate financial matters, which Tom promptly addressed. Leaving the lawyer's office, he silenced his phone. Upon returning to his hotel room, he checked it. The first call from Peggy had come approximately 5 minutes after his departure, then silence for 2 hours, followed by calls every 5 minutes. He listened to only 1 voicemail, the first one after the 2-hour break. Oh my God, Tom, I finally reached Jill. She was drunk. Please call me. I made a mistake. Please call me. Tom deleted all her calls and messages without listening to the rest. The calls, texts, and emails persisted. Tom observed the incoming numbers. He also received calls from Peggy's father, mother, and sister. He returned her father's call. Hey Sean, it's Tom. I know who you are. You're not the only one who can read. What did you do to my daughter? I didn't do anything to her, except not answer her calls. She's upset. What's going on, Sean? If you want to know what happened, talk to Peggy. I'm talking to you. This is a waste of time. Tom maintained a calm and polite demeanor, despite Sean's anger. Sure. Here's the deal. Did you sleep with someone else? Just talk to Peggy. You really screwed up. I should come over there and give you a piece of my mind. Sean, listen to me. If you want to know what happened, you need to hear it from Peggy. I'm not discussing this with you, Mary, or anyone else. Talk to Peggy. How could you do that to her? Goodbye, Sean. Tom terminated the call. Sean immediately redialed, but Tom ignored it. Shortly after, he received a call from Mary, Sean's mother. He deleted their messages and went out for dinner before returning to his hotel room for the night. On Thursday morning, he purchased a new cell phone but retained his old one. He went to work and arranged for some time off, providing his new number but requesting it be kept confidential. Reaching the edge of town, he rented a small furnished apartment, signing a 6-month lease. He then procured groceries and other necessities. By day's end, his new living space was set up. On Friday morning, his lawyer contacted him. He met his attorney at the courthouse to sign some documents. After filing them, he received a copy for Peggy. She wasn't required to sign, but the lawyer advised having a neutral party witness her receipt of the papers. Tom called Peggy, and they agreed to meet for lunch at their usual restaurant. When Peggy arrived, Tom was already seated at a quiet table in the back. She appeared composed as she approached, and Tom rose to greet her. She attempted to embrace him, but he offered his cheek instead. Peggy's disappointment was palpable. She sat opposite him. Tom, I've made a mistake. I want us to put this behind us and move forward. Tom nodded, signaling his agreement to move forward. He declined to order when the waitress, Lynn, whom they'd known for years, approached. What can I get you to drink? She inquired, smiling. 2 Diet Cokes, Peggy responded. Lynn, could you stay for a moment? Tom requested. He reached across the table, handing Peggy some papers. Peggy, these are the divorce papers. Lynn is here to witness that you've been served. Thank you, Lynn, Peggy said, her face pale as she glanced at the documents. Lynn departed to fetch their drinks. Tom, you said you wanted to move on, Peggy began. That's precisely what I'm doing, Tom affirmed. But I made a mistake. That's not what I meant. Peggy, we were married for over 7 years. Those were the best years of my life. I loved you deeply, and I may not love anyone like that again. Don't let it go, Tom. We had a great marriage. It was great, but it won't be anymore. Last Sunday changed everything, including my love for you. I made a mistake. Can't you understand? Let me tell you what I see when I look at you, or when I close my eyes. I remember the woman I loved. Now I see the pain of what I discovered. It's hard to forget. That day changed how I feel. But it was all a mistake. No, it was a choice. You knew what would happen if you did this. But Tom, I thought, what did I say would happen if you crossed that line? Peggy looked down at the table. You said you'd leave me. Did you agree to that? Yes, but it didn't mean anything. Tom held out a DVD. This is for you. It shows what happened. Tom, it wasn't what you think. I was just trying to get even, she pleaded, as Lynn returned with their drinks and took their lunch orders. Peggy, being with someone else when you're married isn't right, and unless both parties consent, it's considered cheating. We can sort this out, Tom. We can talk to a counselor. No, Peg, we can't. You showed me a part of you that changed everything for me. You hurt me deeply. But I want to fight for this. I don't want a divorce. On Sunday, you surprised me with a different side of you. I have a different side, too. You might not want to see it. What side is that? The side where I can be just as unkind and uncaring as you were on Sunday. I won't use my mistake as an excuse. I will own up to what I did. That's not really you, and you know it. That's interesting. I feel the same way about you, Tom. This was a bad choice. No. It was a planned act of revenge. What did you tell your parents? I told them we had a disagreement and that we would fix it. A disagreement about what? Peggy looked away, silent. About what, Peggy? I told them you were seeing someone else. You didn't tell them the truth? No. Why not? They wouldn't understand. Understand what? They wouldn't see it as a mistake. Maybe I'm finally seeing it, Tom. I know what I did was wrong. I was more focused on my feelings than the truth. I know I caused you a lot of pain, but we can move past this. We can repair our marriage. We can forget this happened. Can we? We can't save the marriage. The person I loved is gone. I will keep fighting. I'm determined to save our marriage. There's nothing left to save. It's finished. Don't make me show you my other side. You won't like it. You're just pretending. Don't test me, Peggy. Get a lawyer. Have them review the papers. Tell them to contact my lawyer if you have questions. You'll be on your own, and you'll be free to do what you want in 90 days. This isn't about Joey. I'm sorry. That wasn't nice of me. I apologize. I'm not leaving you, Peg. You already have. The settlement is fair. Accept it and move on. No way. Lynn brought their food. Tom gave her his credit card. She returned shortly with the check. Tom signed it and stood. He hadn't touched his food. Enjoy your meal, Peggy. I lost my appetite last Sunday when you spat on me. Tom left, returning to his rented house. On Tuesday, Peggy met with her lawyer, Ronnie Savage, a highly recommended and formidable attorney. Please have a seat, Mrs. Given. I'm Ronnie Savage. How can I help you? My husband is trying to divorce me. Has he given you any papers? Peggy handed over the documents. Ronnie examined the first page, then the 8th. He's alleging infidelity. Is that true? No, Peggy responded. It was a misunderstanding. You were with someone else besides your husband? Yes, but it was a mistake. Did your husband agree to this? Not specifically with that person, but he knew I could be with someone if he cheated. So he cheated. And you sought revenge? Yes and no. I thought he cheated, but it turned out he didn't. You thought he was unfaithful, but you still took action? Yes. You acted on false information. Did he have proof that you were with someone else? Yes, I made him watch. Then it's his word against yours. Is there any real proof? I recorded it. Here's the DVD Tom gave me on Friday. Can I watch it? Peggy nodded. Ronnie inserted the DVD, stopping it after a few minutes. I need to watch the whole thing later, but first, I should review the petition. She began reading, pausing after a short while. I see you signed a prenuptial agreement, and it seems quite strong regarding fidelity. If he changes the grounds for divorce to irreconcilable differences, we can circumvent that issue. An hour later, Mandy called back. Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry. I see things differently now, but I still need to speak with Peggy. Tell her if she drops the divorce, it will all end there. If she continues to fight, it will only get messier. I'll let her know, Tom replied. Mandy visited Peggy, confirming Tom's honesty and relaying his warning. Peggy remained steadfast in her decision. Mandy then informed their parents about Peggy's actions and Tom's ultimatum. That night, Peggy's parents visited her, bringing copies of both legal documents. Sean consulted a lawyer friend who reviewed the papers and the prenup. He advised Peggy to heed Tom's warning and quietly settle the divorce in court. Still, Peggy refused to yield. After a week of silence from his lawyer, Tom took further action. Peggy taught Sunday school at her family's church. One Sunday, everyone in the congregation, including the women's group and the pastors, received a flyer. It displayed pictures of Peggy with another man, questioning her suitability to teach children. Peggy's parents felt shame rather than support. After the service, the pastor spoke privately with Peggy's parents, explaining the situation and giving them a letter for Peggy stating she was no longer needed as a Sunday school teacher. He included a copy of the flyer. Peggy was devastated but remained defiant, refusing to drop her legal action. She argued to her lawyer that sharing the video with her family wasn't wrong, as Peggy herself stated on the recording that Tom could share it if he wished. The flyers were distributed anonymously, making it difficult to trace them back to Tom. Ronnie urged Peggy to drop the case, and her family pleaded with her to do the same, as the situation was severely impacting their lives. Sean called Tom, expressing his concerns. Tom reiterated his request, but Peggy held firm. A few days later, Peggy's neighbors and friends received similar flyers, this time including only her name and contact information. Her phone and email were inundated with calls and messages. People even resorted to littering her car and lawn with trash. Tom waited another week before initiating his social media campaign. It began with subtle hints, progressing to photos edited to remove specific details. A few days later, Peggy received an email from a website thanking her for the video. When a news crew arrived at her home, Peggy finally broke. She contacted her lawyer and dropped the countersuit, requesting a meeting with Tom. He agreed, stipulating they meet at his lawyer's office. A few days later, they met. Peggy looked drastically different, having lost weight and appearing exhausted. Tom sat across from her. "I've decided to drop the countersuit," she said. "You won." "No, Peggy, I lost. I lost the woman I cared about. I lost my marriage. I lost everything that mattered to me. There's a side of you I've never seen before. I'm sorry you had to see that, Tom. I don't know what to say. I can't go anywhere. I feel like I have to leave just to find a job. I can't stay here either. Everyone we know treats me like a pariah. We both lost so much, haven't we?" "Yes, Peggy, we have." Tom's eyes filled with tears. "I know it's too late now, but is there anything I can do to fix this, other than wishing we could turn back time?" "Besides that?" he asked softly. "I don't think so, Peggy." He stood, preparing to leave. Peggy rose, opening her arms for a final embrace, tears streaming down her face. Tom took a step towards her, then hesitated, tears welling in his own eyes. "I can't, Peggy. It would feel wrong." He paused, then turned towards the door. As his hand touched the doorknob, he looked back at her. "There is one thing that might help." "What is it?" she asked hopefully. You could say you're sorry. Just once." With that, Tom walked out of the office and out of her life.